As one of our end of year projects, you are going to design a park like a landscape architect would. We are going to incorporate some math into this since this is a math project. And this is very much goes along with geometry. We're going to be looking at area and perimeter. So you are going to receive an 11 by 17 paper that looks just like this. Okay. This is the area, the lot that we are going to design our park on. Okay, we have Crestview Avenue over here. There's Mitchell Street over here. Okay, and then these are property lines that might connect to like a private home property or a business or anything else. So you can't go beyond this property line. And these are existing sidewalks already right here. So your job is to first name your park, okay? And you can write the name of your park up here on the side. Make sure you put your name over here as well, okay? Now, I want to pay special attention to this scale over here, okay? So this scale says 1 inch equals 10 feet. Okay, and these are 1 inch squares. So every 1 inch, every square, every unit is 10 feet. Okay, so half of a square going halfway in or half of an inch would be 5 feet. Okay, so you need to use this scale so that you can put your dimensions in correctly. Scaling is also an important part of math. Okay, on this sheet, this explains what the requirements are. You need to design a park using the given scale, just like we went over. So each square unit on this is 10 feet. So if you need to do like 15 feet, you would do like 1.5 squares. If you would need to do 5 feet, you would just do half. Okay, and you can use your ruler also. So if we line this up, you can see that it is 1 inch. Each square is 1 inch. So if you need to do 5 feet, use your ruler to do half of an inch. Okay, so these are the required things you need to have in your park. You can add other things, but first get your required things in. And think about where you're placing them in your park. Okay, for example, the first thing that you need to put in your park is 4 parking spots. Okay, each parking spot needs to be 10 feet by 20 feet. So that means that it needs to be 1 square by 2 squares. So you need to have 4 of those. Now think, for your parking spots, you probably need it next to a road so that people can drive into the parking spot, right? You don't want it over here on a property line where you can't drive into it unless you drive a road to that park, or unless you design a road to that parking lot, like a little entryway from the existing road. Okay, so you need to think about those things. Another thing, you can have more parking spots, but you need to have at least 4. The other thing you need to have is a 5-foot wide sidewalk. And it says it can be any reasonable length. So when you go to a park, usually there's some paved pathways. That's what I mean by a sidewalk through the park. Okay, it needs to be 5 feet wide. It doesn't have to be straight, but it needs to consistently stay 5 feet wide. Okay, you also need to have a playground area. The playground area needs to be 30 feet by 40 feet. So that's going to be 3 squares by 4 squares. Okay, your basketball court, you need to place somewhere. Okay, the dimensions for that are 30 feet by 50 feet. So doing it with the scale is going to be 3 squares by 5 squares. Okay, you also need to have restrooms, like a little restroom building for bathrooms. Okay, the dimensions for that are 15 feet by 15 feet. So that is going to be 1.5 squares by 1.5 squares, or 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. Okay, you need to have 6 trees, and those need to be 20 feet in diameter. I'm going to show you how to draw those trees in a little bit. You can have more than 6 trees, but you need to have at least 6, okay? And then you need a lawn area. I didn't give dimensions for the lawn area, okay? And then you may add any other features that will fit, but make sure that you're labeling them, and I will show you what I mean, okay? So these are the required things. Now, the steps is first you're going to lightly draw it with a ruler and pencil. It's really important, ruler and pencil, lightly, so you can erase, you can make mistakes. You only get one 11 by 17 sheet. Second, after you're done, you're going to neatly color only with colored pencil or crayon. There are no markers, only colored pencils and crayons. If you want to use a thin black marker to label and go over your labeling, you can do that. But other than that, all coloring is with colored pencils or crayons. Okay, the very last step is finding the area and perimeter of each feature. Okay, I gave you the dimensions for the playground, basketball, restroom area, parking spots. Okay, now the lawn area, that can be a little trickier. Now you might have lots of grass, but you should kind of have one basic lawn area, like where you could have like a soccer game or a baseball game or practice or lacrosse practice or a football practice. So your main lawn area, it doesn't have to be every part of grass that's in your park, but the main lawn area, figure out what your area is. Now remember, with area, we went over this, okay, or we will go over it. Area is length times width. Okay, so for area, you do length times width. Perimeter is like a fence around it. So you need to add up all the sides. Okay, all right. So these are the requirements you have to do. Remember, you need a ruler and a pencil, and you can only color with crayons or colored pencils. Okay, now let me show you some examples of what a park design is going to look like. Okay, first I am going to show you right here. Let me kind of get that bigger. Okay, well, that one's pretty small, but you can see that we're looking at it from a bird's eye view. So it's like we are like in a drone at the top of this park. Okay, and you can see that they have a lake, they have a bridge, here's the pathways. What do you think those circles are? Those circles are actually trees. Okay, they have a little like gazebo and bench area and things like that. Okay, let's look at a couple others. I wish I could get this bigger. Let's see. So I will post these pictures on Google Classroom so you can take a look a little bit better. Okay, but you can see this is the lawn area, and then you have some trees. You have a pathway over here. Maybe that's a restroom, parking lot, maybe with some trees that will help shade it. There's an entryway from the road. Oops. Okay, you can see that these are trees. The circles, this is a lawn area. Okay, this is a different type. This is a big parking lot with some trees, and then we have lots of fields. Okay. All right, so let me go back. Okay, so you're going to have a blank sheet. Here is an example of designing one. Okay, so name your park. Okay, you decide what your name is of your park. Okay, write your name so I know who it belongs to. Okay, and you can see on this one, okay, we have our parking spots, 10 by 20. Okay, it's coming in off of Crestview Avenue. You can see, okay, made these marks to show where we would have to remove this sidewalk so we could get into the parking lot. Okay. All right. These are trees. Okay. So when we talked about trees, we said that they needed to be 20 feet in diameter. 20 feet, remember, every square is an inch. So every inch is 10 feet. So these need to be about 2 inches in diameter. So if you look across at this, okay, this isn't exactly 2 inches, but it's really, really close. Diameter means going across. So this is about 2 inches. These are all about 20 feet in diameter. And see how it's labeled over here? Okay, so each of these, now what do you think this little X in the middle of the tree is? That would be where the trunk is. This is like the canopy of the tree, the leaves. Remember, it's like we're in a drone, a bird's eye view. So you can see these are 20 feet in diameter, 2 inches across both ways. Okay, about. All right, so look at, we have these sidewalks. The sidewalks are 5 feet apart. It's labeled right here. It's 1/2 an inch. Okay. All right. Looks like we have a big lawn area right here with some trees for shade. All right. Here is our playground area. The playground area needs to be 30 feet by 40 feet. Okay. Now look at this person who did it. Okay. They didn't just use 3 by 4 squares. Do you see that they went like half, one hole, one hole, one hole, half, which equals 4 feet across, or 4 inches across, which is 40 feet, okay? And 3 feet up and down, or 3 inches up and down, I keep saying that wrong, which is our 30 feet. And they even drew in some possible playground structures. Okay, restrooms, 15 feet by 15 feet, so that's 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. Okay, a basketball court, which was 30 by 50 feet for the whole thing, which is 3 inches by 5 inches. Okay, and then they drew the basketball court key. Now you can see that they were strategic about where they place things. Obviously, the parking lot, they were by a road so that they could get in and out. Okay, it probably wouldn't have been a good idea to put the playground right next to the parking lot. Because why? Well, little kids could run out into the parking lot. That would be unsafe. So it's nice that we have like this little border area, okay, that helps separate the parking lot from the playground. Okay, also think about where you would want your basketball court. Would it be good to have a basketball court with the basketball hoop right here, so every time you shot and missed, it went into the parking lot? No. So having it over here against a property line with actually some grass to help give a little bit of border is a good idea. Okay, so think about that. Where do you need the restrooms? I think it's the little kids that always need the restroom the most. So you want it pretty close to the playground, but not so far. I mean, you don't want it so close, like right next to it. Okay, but close enough. You think about, do we want more trees? Maybe we would want another tree over the playground so that it will cool it down a little bit. Okay, so this is just an example. I will post these pictures on Google Classroom so that you can look at them a little bit better. Okay, this is a smaller version of it. But again, these circles, okay, those represent the trees, the canopies of the trees. This would be a playground. Okay, these could be like benches. All right, maybe you want to add a swimming pool for one of the optional things you can add. Okay. All right, so let's go over how to make your trees. Remember, they don't need to be exact. Okay, so again, we always design things with a pencil. So if this, and I'm looking at this upside down from when we looked at this other one, maybe. Yes, okay. So if this was our parking lot, because we need it to come in off of a street, all right? We have one tree that I already drew, and it looks like I started to draw a path already. Okay, so let's say I want another tree. Okay, I want another tree over here. Okay, what you're going to do is first draw like where you want your trunk, like a dot for where you want your trunk. Okay, and remember, the trees need to have a 20-foot diameter canopy. So a 20-foot diameter about circle. Now remember, every inch is 10 feet. So that means if I want it to be centered on that, okay, I'm going to line up my 1 inch on my dot. And then I'm going to make a little mark an inch out on each side. Okay, so it's 10 feet this side, 10 feet this side, which is a 20-foot diameter. Now I'm going to do the same thing going this way. An inch on each side. So now you can see this is my trunk, the middle of my tree. This is going to be my canopy. Now it doesn't need to be a perfect circle. It can be if you want, okay? But you can just kind of lightly with your pencil make a circle. Does it have to be perfectly exact? No. If you like more of the wiggly lines like this, you can do that. If you like more of a circle, you can do that for your tree. Okay, so that is how you are going to design it. Follow these instructions. Lay it out and think about, you've been to lots of parks, what works? Where do you want the restrooms compared to the playground? Where do you want the basketball court compared to the parking spots? Okay. And then have like a dedicated lawn area. Again, when you're finding your area and perimeter, like on this sheet, finding your area and perimeter of these different things, we would just use this lawn area. Okay. Even though we have lawn around here, this is the main lawn area. Now, again, be creative. You can add other things if you want to add a swimming pool or a splash pad or a skate park. You think about, if you were designing this park, what would you want? Okay, now this is the fun part. Okay. After you design your park following all of these rules, okay, I will collect all of them. And my husband, this is what he does for his job. He's a landscape architect. He's designed parks before, and cities pay landscape architects to lay out a park. And they will often give them requirements like this. These are the things we need, okay? Now you put it together. So I'm going to take all of your projects, and he doesn't know who you guys are, and I lay them out, and he picks his top 3 from every class, and I will give you a good price. Okay. All right. So do your best. Okay. Follow the rules. Don't forget, at the very end, you need to find your area and perimeter of each section. Okay. Only color in with crayon or colored pencil. You can use a thin black marker to label or do some lines if you want, but the coloring only happens with crayons or colored pencils. All right, have fun with this. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with.